Donald Trump is now suing another media outlet. This time it's the Des Moines Register, that's the newspaper in Iowa, over that pre-election poll. Remember the one just before the election that showed Trump losing the state to Kamala Harris by a very wide margin. Trump, of course, won Iowa by a very wide margin, more than 13 points. The lawsuit is accusing the Des Moines Register's longtime pollster and the paper itself of brazen election interference.
Scott, how many campaigns have you done? I've done 100 million, and probably you have too, right? Every time you get a bad poll, are you supposed to sue the pollster now?
It's not about the poll. It's not about the poll. But look what happened. It came out from a person who has a lot of credibility. Virtually every single panel I was on for the last week of the campaign led with, well, look at this poll out of Iowa. It's the, and so it wasn't the poll. It's the second, third, and fourth order narrative.
Listen. The number. I'm sorry.
And it's just
speech. So what? So what?
It's free speech.
What about Scott? I mean, what about free speech? I mean, I thought that this was the Republican Party of say what you want. Let's debate it in the public square. Like, let's have the conversation. Now it's let's only have the conversation if you're 100%. Prescient and correct in that moment. It was a bad poll. It was a wrong poll. The media discussed it. So what?
Do you know what I'm so tired of, Scott? The number one cable news network, Fox News. The number one paper by circulation, the Wall Street Journal. Number three paper by circulation, the New York Post. Number one person on the radio, Sean Hannity. The number one person on the podcast, Joe Rogan. All of these people are Trump supporters. What media are you talking about that's anti-Trump?
You're not familiar with the anti-Trump media?
You're not familiar with the fact that you guys control for everything
of
from
all
podcasts?
the things I've heard you say out here, that might be the nuttiest.
Scott,
believe me, there's plenty of anti-Trump media.
She's trying to pay you. She's trying to pay conservatives.
What I'm basically trying to say is that you guys have taken over the airwaves. You guys have taken over the radio airwaves. You guys have taken over podcasts. You guys have taken over pretty much, and now you're sitting here complaining because all you guys do is whine and complain. Your entire raison d'etre is to have grievances. You don't actually think about leading. You just think about having grievances against the media.
The fear is real, folks. All of these journalists and so-called political commentators are scared for their livelihoods because most of them make good money by hating Donald J. Trump. And it's extremely hilarious that they just don't care about accuracy whenever the narrative goes against Trump. Accuracy, smaccuracy. You caught that from Abby Phillip, right? Who cares if a pollster got it wrong? What? Well, the fact is that the pollster wasn't wrong. It was that they lied about the poll. But since it favored Kamala Harris at the time, all of these mainstream liberal media news outlets, they just pretty much rolled with it. But of course, the people of Iowa gave that poll the big, huge middle finger by giving Trump a landslide win.
So where does that take us? Let me go ahead and do the path of 270 that we're doing late at night. Dana, I just think right now, there's a really good chance once Alaska chips in here, Michigan stays the way it is, Arizona stays the way it is, Nevada stays the way it is, you're at 312. Right. That's an electoral landslide, as they say, okay? Very important for Trump to have this. You think about the number of people who consider him a divisive political leader. You get an electoral landslide, you win the national vote in all likelihood, you win more blacks and more Hispanics, and that enables you to govern more effectively once you go back to D.C. on the 20th of January.
But the fact remains that they tried to sway the opinion of the people, that they lied in order to make Trump look weak in that state. And what's funny with this exchange is that they're asking Scott about where the anti-Trump media is, when it's pretty clear that he's the only one on the panel that leans to the right. And even with those odds, he still manages to sound logical and coherent. Now, I also love how he smirks at the lies that these people are spreading. And it's obvious that they're afraid at the thought of getting sued by President-elect Trump. It's why Jennings gets cut off mid-sentence every single time. I also find it amusing to think that they're pissed at the idea of Trump and the right getting better ratings than they ever will. But remember that CNN was a leader within mainstream media some time ago. Although spreading propaganda over and over and over again and outright lying to the American people is just not as popular as it used to be. And well, that's why their ratings suck. And the same goes for other news outlets that have severe TDS, the same ones that defamed Trump all these years.
We should note, Kristen, I don't want to overstate Trump's friendliness and genial attitude at this press conference, because this weekend ABC News agreed to pay $16 million, including legal fees, to settle a defamation lawsuit brought by Trump against the network and their anchor, George Stephanopoulos. And that obviously will not be the end of this campaign against the media, a legal campaign against the media. We heard him go after many other news outlets today. Take a listen.
I'm going to be bringing one against the people in Iowa, their newspaper. We're filing one on 60 Minutes. We're involved in one which has been going on for a while and very successfully against Bob Woodward. We have one, very interestingly, on Pulitzer, because reporters at the New York Times, Washington Post got Pulitzer Prizes for their wonderful, accurate, and highly professional reporting on the Russia hoax.
We don't have time to go into all of that, but just to touch base on a couple. There's one of them is the people of Iowa, the Des Moines Register. That's because there was a poll that was inaccurate. Mm-hmm. The one on 60 Minutes is because they didn't like the editing that had been done to the Kamala Harris.
From Kamala Harris.
Yeah, I mean, this is wildly ridiculous.
Well, one of the things to keep in mind here is that Donald Trump feels like he won. I mean, this weekend, by having a settlement with ABC, one that many people did not think was going to come to fruition. They thought that this would end up in court, or that it would certainly not be a settlement in which ABC paid $16 million and issued a public apology, which was part of this, has been a situation which has empowered and emboldened Donald Trump.
Trump derangement syndrome is real, guys. But what's ridiculous is the way that 60 Minutes edited Kamala Harris's interview to make her sound better than she did. Now, I would love to hear what Jake Tapper would say if Fox News edited Trump's answer to any of the questions that he was asked during this year's presidential race. But again, since it was Kamala Harris who profited from the editing, guys like Jake Tapper would simply just ignore it. But just to give you guys a little bit of a better idea of how much mainstream media hates Trump, let's go by history. The tone for news coverage for Trump within the first 100 days was 80% negative. That was for 2016. Within the same 100 days of presidency, Obama got 41% negative, George W. Bush got 57% negative, and Clinton got 60% negative. And just take this year's election, okay? Kamala Harris got 84% positive coverage, while Trump got 89% negative. Now, how do you pull that off unless there's a clear bias? 77 million people voted for Trump, yet he's got 80+% negative news coverage. How in the world does that happen? 77 million Americans voted for him, meaning they approved of him, and the media, 80% negative news. So what did the American people say about Trump? Well, a majority of this country liked him so much that they voted for him for a second term. And yet these news outlets are pretty much just freaking out because he's suing them for defamation. I think it's pretty clear that legacy media is biased against him. But the moment he fights for himself, oh, he's the bad guy. Do any of you guys feel as if it's fair for Trump? Now, speaking of which, do you guys think that Biden pardoning his own son is fair? Because rumors are going around that he's about to provide pardons to a lot of people, which may or may not include the likes of Diddy. You know, what's crazy is I used to think I could do it on my own, all by myself. But after years of spinning my wheels, I realized something was missing. It wasn't more hustle or more effort. It was the right people. Then all of a sudden, one day, I connected with somebody who had already achieved the success that I was actually striving for. And suddenly, everything changed. That's the power of your network. Inside the Life Pursuit Network, you'll find people who have been exactly where you are now and have risen to the top. They've already learned lessons and they've paved the way, and now they're ready to help you do the same. Join us right now. Click the link down below and unlock the potential of a powerful network of people that can change your life. But act fast because spots are limited. Now, I covered this in a previous live stream that you absolutely must check out, guys. As always, I appreciate you guys for being here. Thanks so much for keeping yourselves informed. I'll catch you guys on the next one.